From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is Brief News Brief. President Trump seems to have just one crisis after another. It seems that by the time I'm finished describing his last disaster, he's got a brand new one brewing up, and I'm having a hard time catching my breath. All right. On Monday, it was reported that when Trump met with Russian officials at the White House last week, he shared with them top secret classified information that we received from an ally, which is super not cool, Donnie. That's like going to the playground and spreading your best friend's secrets to everybody, even the bullies, particularly the bullies. Since we're just civilians, we don't know what the secret is that he spread, but we do know how secret it is. It's more than top secret. It's beyond top secret. It's so secret, it's got a secret code name, and we're not even allowed to know the secret code name, which is, I think, a little silly. Like, why can't we know the code name? Like, the eagle is landing. Oh, the civilians will know too much. What we do know is that there is a terrorist plan in motion to attack the U.S. by using a laptop on a plane. Now, in all fairness, we already knew this information. It was widely reported that new rules were being put into place to ban laptops from flights from Europe to the U.S. Now we know this is way more serious than we had thought. This threat's big. And it was Israel that gave us that information. That was at least part of the secret that they shared with Russia. All right, today Trump is flying to Israel for the first time. It's his first overseas trip as a president. But that's not all. Like I was saying, it's hard to catch your breath crisis to crisis, because yesterday we also learned that Trump, just earlier this year, told Comey to back off the investigation of Michael Flynn. I can't believe it. But Michael Flynn, he was telling him to back off the investigation, saying, he's already resigned, it's not that big of a deal. Well, what Trump didn't realize, I guess he didn't even think it was possible, was that Comey was taking very detailed notes of his investigation into Trump and with this conversation of this meeting. Now, Comey is very likely going to testify in front of the Senate Intel community in the coming day or two. So now even Republicans are starting to freak out about this president. Is this the GOP moment of reckoning? The Republicans were into Trump because they figured they were going to get some policy agendas accomplished. Not swap from the no-drama Obama days to the Game of Thrones meets House of Cards real-life saga. That's what this everyday Trump administration's doing to Republicans. They want to move on to health care, to taxes, to government regulations and budget priorities. Exciting stuff. But instead, the president sends out a tweet and they find themselves defending and explaining his tweets day after day. Controversies plague the White House, and it's making it really hard for Trump to be, a leader. The Republicans are looking for the inner Trump in them to stand up and say, "You're fired." Here comes your brief news briefing. President Trump today came out and said he's being treated worse than any other president in American history, which makes sense because we feel like the Americans are being treated worse by this president than by any leader in American history. U.S. stocks and the dollar dropped today as investors feel uncertain about Trump. So it seems like the rally is over and we're getting buyer's remorse. Twisters in Kansas and Oklahoma and Wisconsin have damaged dozens and dozens of homes. I believe the number might have been up to 26 tornadoes touched down yesterday and devastated the Midwest. Researchers have found a link between North Korea and the WannaCry ransomware that rocked the world last week, which surprised me. I did not know that North Korea had the level of sophistication to make that widely spread malware. And finally, Lucky Charms announced that it will be releasing boxes of marshmallow-only cereal, which goes to prove Donald Trump has made America great again. This is a great example. In theory, everybody's like, I wish I could buy a box of all marshmallows. You get that box, I want to see you eat a bowl of just marshmallows. It'll start off where you're like, this is great. The stocks are going up. But by the end, you're like, these are slimy marshmallows. Where's the crunch? Where's the crunch? It seems like my marshmallows have been taken over by the soggies. And now it's your time to chime. I'm sure you've noticed that down beneath there's some text that's scrolling. If you didn't notice, it's probably because you're only listening and you're not watching, which makes me think maybe there's a market for a podcast out there. But nonetheless, you've probably noticed it. What is it down there? It's a conversation that took place on YouTube between several different people. And I think it's a great idea to make sure that it's not just my voice, because obviously even if I was going to try my hardest, tiny bits, in my opinion, will slip through. But let's hear the voice of people. So I'm going to try to bring conversations from, originally we were trying to herd people over to Facebook and have these conversations. I feel like that's an easier place to conversate. Facebook is a more social place than I think the comment section of YouTube. But that being said, if you were just going to drag your feet and tooth and nail me to it, I'll look at the comment section of YouTube if that's where you want to have your conversation. But no, that the first place I'm going to look is the Facebook page, Brief News Brief. Nonetheless, what we have talked about down there in the comment section, what's been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen, is about the firing of Jim Comey. Was it unprecedented that Donald Trump fired his FBI director while he was still in office, while he was serving? Well, first of all, it would be tough to fire somebody that wasn't serving still, so that part of it is a no-brainer. My mistake, just speaking out loud. But someone said that this also happened with Bill Clinton, and they are correct in the fact that an FBI director was fired by Bill Clinton. But the situation was different. Bill Clinton was not under investigation at the time by the FBI. Maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. That's a different story. But the other argument that was raised is this doesn't change anything, because Jim Comey already refused to testify in front of the Intelligence Committee. The difference is now he's a citizen. That doesn't change. He can still testify in front of them. This wasn't known last week, but now he's being requested to speak and testify. But the reason some people speculated on YouTube that they didn't was because they didn't want to just appear as a disgruntled employee. Now I think there's enough people crying to hear this story that they're going to give him legitimate credibility. They're not going to undercut him. So here's the question that I want to talk about for next week. We'll not the entire conversation, but and obviously if you're going to write some like anything bad that I would be embarrassed to have scrolling, that won't make the cut, I promise. But sensible, logical things, we'll have that slide through. Here's what we want to talk about. Does this smell like obstruction of justice? And I'll take the word smell out of it because I have a feeling that's going to just... Do you think that there's been obstruction of justice going on right now? Not specifically just the firing, but everything we've seen happening with Trump. Do you think there's obstruction of justice?